Hello guys, welcome to the session Sourcing and Procurement Overview Part 3. Today we will see what is procurement, methods of procurement and special procurement type. So let's start. Procurement and purchasing. So first we need to understand what is the difference between procurement and purchasing. Is purchasing and procurement same? A lot of people get them confused. So purchasing is a part of procurement, or we can say procurement is the preparation for proper purchase. For example, when we buy a product, what we want, even before we take on actual use, we do research in the market. That is called procurement. So what's available on the market, what are the different suppliers, what are their product specification, whether it's matching our needs. So it's not actually buying it. We're identifying our needs. And all these things comes in procurement. So we need to know what actually we want. Then once we know what we want, we can go out and find what we want for the right price or service or warranty. So all those things comes in purchasing. So procurement is a kind of looking at a market at all different suppliers, brands, their features that we might want to buy. And purchasing is actually going out and negotiating the deal and buying the product. So we can say procurement includes more engagement other than purchasing. Now, when the system determines the procurement element, it first asks whether procurement should take place via in-house production or external procurement. So for that, we have some special procurement process. In today's lecture, we will discuss what are the special procurement types. And in SAP system, we have to define whether in-house production or external procurement or both are allowed for the material. And we have to define it more preciously how this in-house production or external procurement is to be carried out in the MRP2 view of material master data. So let's see the direct procurement and indirect procurement. So this direct procurement covers the sourcing and procurement of goods and service that will either become a part of bill of material or resold as a customer or service. For example, it is a component that build a product. So it is a production related purchase and it is a part of finished products. It directly affects the production process. That is direct procurement. Indirect procurement, it covers everything that company needs for its operation. For example, think about like IT staff. We have different services, utilities like gas, electricity, water. So all these things are indirect procurement. So basically, indirect procurement, it is not related to production, but it required to complete the operation. That is indirect procurement. Now, based on the material being procured, we have two different types of procurement. First one is procurement for stock material, and second is procurement for consumable material. So stock material are the material that are stored in the inventory. So whenever we required, we can use it. So stock, when we receive in the warehouse, it adds to the store quantity. And when we consume, it reduces the overall stock quantity. So most important point here is we have a material master data. So every stock material must have a material master data. To create a certain parameter to execute a life cycle, we required material master data for stock material. In case of consumable material, it refers to the procure for direct consumption. So we don't store in inventory. And this material may or may not have a material master data. So material master data is optional for consumable material. But here we require account assignment category while creating a purchase order. So we will discuss in next lecture how this account assignment category is integrated with GL account and what are the effects of account assignment category. So we'll discuss in next lecture. Now, there are different types of procurement method. So basically, what are the source of material? What are the source to procure the material? We have three types. First one is purchase order, second is contract, and third is scheduling agreement. Now, in purchase order, basically it is a formal document which we send to supplier with a request for a product or a services as an order. That is a purchase order. Let's say through an example, what is the difference between purchase order, contract, and scheduling agreement? Let's take an example of purchase order. Let's take an example of standard purchase order. Would be a company agree to buy 10 quantity for a price, let's say 100 rupees each, 100 rupees per piece. Okay, and which will be delivered in next 2 weeks. Let's say today date, let's say today is 1st of Jan. It will be delivered in, we have created a purchase order at 1 January and which will be delivered in next 10 days. So 10th of Jan, I will take as a delivery date. So in purchase order, we have a quantity, price, and delivery date. So this is a formal invitation, formal document or a formal request which we send to supplier for the procurement of material. That is purchase order. Second is contract. Contract is agreement between the customer and company. So it will have a validity date. So basically we create a contract for long-term agreement. Let's say we have a contract from 1st Jan 2021 to 6 months of contract we have. So it will have validity date and it will have quantity or value. So basically we have two types of contract. The first one is quantity contract and second is value contract. Let's say I have created a contract for 10,000 pieces. So I will create a purchase order during this time frame until the 10,000 pieces are completed. Or same we have, say, let's say we have contract for 1 lakh rupees. So I can create a purchase order with reference to contract until the quantity or until this value reach. So that is the contract. So we have two types of contract. First one is value contract and second is quantity contract. And we use the value contract when the total value of all the release orders should not exceed the certain amount. Or we use this quantity contract when the total quantity to order over the duration of this time frame until this quantity reach. So that is the difference between purchase order and contract. In case of contract, we have a long-term agreement between company and supplier on the basis of quantity or on the basis of value and during this time frame. That is the contract. So whenever we want a material, we simply create a purchase order with reference to this contract. Either this is a quantity contract or value contract. Now third is scheduling agreement. Now, when we want subsequently set up a rolling delivery schedule, for example, in scheduling agreement, we purchase our quantity on regular basis, which means period basis. It may be either daily or weekly. So instead of creating purchase order, we create individual schedule lines. Let's see the example of scheduling agreement. Here, in scheduling agreement is also a long-term agreement between company and supplier. For here, I have created a scheduling agreement from this validity start date and validity end date. So during this time frame, I have created a scheduling agreement and having a subsequent delivery. So I have created agreement for 100 piece. and I want this 100 piece in subsequent delivery, rolling delivery. So here I put 30 quantity should be delivered on this date, 20 quantity should be delivered on this date, remaining 50 should be delivered on remaining date. So I want subsequent setup rolling delivery schedule, that is schedule agreement. Now we have seen PO, contract, schedule agreement. So we can say PO is the single business transaction. We can use purchase order for once only procure that procurement transaction. And contract and schedule agreement are the long-term agreement. It is long-term agreement between supplier and company. Although PO and contract include much of the same information. So at then it depends upon business whether you use to PO or to use a contract. Normally, PO is used when amount is small and low risk. That time we use purchase order. While contract is used when we have a big amount and high risk, we have a big quantity or big amount. That time we use contract. So we have some benefits of contract, as we have it is a good kind of relationship between customer or vendor and supplier and company, because we have created a contract for a huge amount or huge quantity. So it that supplier will provide some special discount. So that is also one of the benefit for contract. So PO is used when we have a low amount, and contract is used when we have a large requirement, and schedule agreement is used when we have a want subsequent delivery. So basically here we specify quantity of material to be delivered on certain dates. So basically uh, benefit for this schedule agreement is less paperwork. Instead of creating a number of PO, we just create a schedule lines here and we send it to supplier. So we will get delivery on that certain dates. So for a system perspective, it less forms translate to less purchasing document in database. So schedule agreement is also an agreement that quantity will be divided into different schedule lines and delivery will be created based on the schedule lines in the agreement. So that is the difference between purchase order, contract, and schedule agreement. So at the end, it depends on business whether to use a PO or whether to use a contract. Now we will see special procurement. So we have some special procurements in SAP. The first one is subcontracting. First, we will see when we use this special procurement. Before that, for special procurement, we need some basic configuration in MRP to view of material master data. So when special procurement is involved, we must ensure that relevant special procurement type has been assigned in the MRP2 tab of the material master. So we'll first see overview of the special procurement cycle, and once we do hands-on or once we do an SAP system, that time I will show you the configuration required in material master data for special procurement. The first one is subcontracting. So when we use subcontracting, there are some cases like we have company cannot perform some operation in house, so we send material to subcontractor to perform that material. That is the case of subcontracting. Or second is like if we have seen the production order, we have routing, and in routing, let's say the like operation number 10, 20, 30, 40, this is the routing. Here we have some operation like machining, drilling. Here is some operation like heat treatment. So the company is not able to perform this operation, particular one of the operation. So we send the material to perform this operation to subcontractor. That is also one of the case of subcontracting. Or sometimes we have, let's say this is our finished product, or we can say this is the assembly. And here we have again sub-assembly. Here is sub-assembly 1 and 2. So we want to perform, we want to send a material to supplier and we get back this subassembly from supplier. So that is also one of the example of subcontracting. So this is operational subcontracting, or this is assembly subcontracting. Let's take an example of a fan. Let's take an example of fan having a motor and blade. Now I want to perform some operation for from subcontractor. So I will send a material to subcontractor, and like the here I will send a material, raw material to vendor. He will perform some subcontracting activity, do machining, and return back to the company. So that is the example of assembly subcontracting. In case of operational subcontracting, I want to perform only one of the operation. In only one of the operation we want to perform, that time I will use operational subcontracting. So basically this operational subcontracting is mentioned in routing. As we want to perform only one of the operation, that is operational subcontracting. And if you want to perform whole product, that is assembly subcontract. Now most of the work is done in in-house, so we can keep more profits higher if we were subcontracting the work out to another company. So that is also the scenario when we used to subcontracting. And in case of also we want to decide engage in subcontracting to ensure project would be completed during the time frame, as we did not want to any more full-time employees. We want customer delivery on time, or we don't want to full-time employees. That time also we can use subcontracting. So these are the different scenarios when we use the subcontract. Next is consignment. Now, in case of consignment, in many industries, manufacturer prefers a very close association with their vendor. Like they don't want to manage the inventory of the component purchased from the vendor. They want their vendor to manage the inventory in the company's premises. So manufacturing company provides the company's premises for vendor at manufacturing plant. Like here you can see, this is the company premises and this material is in company, but company is not author, company is not owner for this this inventory. This is, though it is in company premises, but vendor is owner for this company, vendor is owner for this inventory. So whenever the plant use that inventory, so vendor keeps an account of the number of components used by manufacturer. So whenever we consume that material, then and only then it will goes to company stock. Now in figure, here we can see a receipt of good, it not declared as a company stock until it get consumed. So receipt, it is still considered as vendor stock. Now with using this consignment process, we can monitor vendor stock at company premises and analyze how many we using that per month or per week. So basically in consignment process, company will not uh, take the charge for this vendor stock unless and until this material get consumed. The basic benefit of for this consignment is, here we don't pay immediately. Like whenever we consume the material, that time we do settlement. When we do actual configuration, when we run a consignment cycle, that time I will show you, instead of invoice we do settlement here for the consumable quantity only. Next is third party. So company does not deliver the item requested by customer. In case of third party, we pass order along to third party vendor who ships the good directly to the customer. So this graphic shows how third party business transaction is processed. So company, here company, we get a order from the customer. Here we create a sales order. So company convert that sales order into purchase requisition or purchase order and send it to vendor. Now vendor perform the operation, and instead of that he directly, instead of materials sent to company, instead of he sent to customer. For example, here We can see customer order a goods to company. So sales order is created and company convert that set order into purchase order, and here he gives the address of the customer. So once operation is completed, vendor directly send to the customer address. So customer orders good at a company, and company gives sales order to customer, and company gives purchase order to vendor with customer delivery address, and vendor directly delivers goods to customers. So company pays to vendor and company collects the payment from customer. So that is the third party. Next, stock transfer order. Now we need to procure some component used in assembly from our company's other plant in distance location. That is stock transfer order. Now we have two types of stock transfer. One is intra-company and second is intercompany transfer. Now, whenever we want a material from one plant to another plant within a same company code, that is intercompany. But whenever you want to transfer a material from one plant to another plant with different company code, that is intercompany. So here basically this receiving plant as act as a customer and supplying plant act as a vendor, and as per that we have to select the document type and create the purchase order for the stock transfer order. Next, pipeline. So this pipeline material is a material that flows directly into the production process from a pipe. So pipeline material is a material that flows directly into the production process from a pipe. So this material is not procured or planned. This material is not stored, and no inventory management is carried out for that material. For example, we have electricity or water. So whenever we consume that material, we just do settlement with vendor. So no physical inventory is carried out here, and this pipeline material is always available. Like when we have some electricity or water, so whenever we consume that material, we just do settlement with vendor. Last one is RTP, that is returnable transport packaging. Now we have some of the material, so it is very difficult to send the material without packaging. So for this material, vendor will send a material with packaging, right? So without packaging, vendor can't supply this material. So it should pack with some container. Now this material expense, this material is so expensive sometimes. So we want a return. So vendor will ask to return this material once we utilize the material. So this is called as return packaging transport. Okay. Now when we do actual configuration, when we run on the system, that time we will get clear. So if you have any doubt, got any questions, we will make sure to answer all those questions. So share this video with anyone you think it might help. And if you're not subscribed, do hit the subscribe button down below. If you hit the bell icon, apparently you will get notification every time we post a video. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.